out there who are joining us for the first time. And good morning to those of you who are joining us again for Galilee's virtual boot camp. This virtual boot camp is a ministry, a men's ministry for Galilee Missionary Baptist Church in Shreveport, Louisiana. And on this virtual boot camp, we discuss issues and various things as it relates to men. And when we say men, we're talking about young boys, we're talking about teenage boys, we're talking about young men, middle-aged men, elderly men. We're just talking about issues that have an impact on men as a whole, and how we as men can be better, how we can help break the cycle and break the chains of broken men. As it's been duly noted by others, that it is better or easier to fix struggling boys than to try to fix broken men. Because once it gets set in our selves is very difficult. And then the impact that men have on families and communities is very, very, very important. And so this is what this is. So this morning, our pastor is actually, who would typically be on doing the introduction, is having to do what pastors do from time to time. He's at a funeral, and this time he's at a funeral for his aunt. So I want to be in prayer for Pastor Brian Wilson and so forth. Today, though, we have Reverend Bloomer, Dexter Bloomer, one of the younger ministers of the gospel at Galilee. And we also have Reverend Mike Ephraim, who is a little bit older than him, but he's also one of the ministers and men of the gospel at Galilee, who both in their own right do a great job. And then we have with us our very own Shreveport native resident author, Patrick Brown, whose book is the center of our discussion. And the book is called Lost Black Boys, and it's authored by Patrick Brown. So I encourage you, if you are raising a young boy, or you have your own, if you're a single parent, a dual parent, grandparent, if you're raising a young boy, I would encourage you to purchase a book for yourself and purchase the book for the young boy. And any men, I would encourage all of you to purchase this book. So what we typically do, I just want Patrick to come on and just give another introduction of what was the basis of his book. And then we're going to talk about the subjects today. One of the subjects is something that I'm gonna be honest, the Black community does not like to even sniff to talk about. And then there's another one that's extremely significant for boys and men, and really for all of you for the rest of your life that we'll discuss. So, Patrick, come on and just really quickly give us another backdrop to this book, this outstanding book that you wrote.
Thank you. Patrick Brown, the author of the book. I live here in Shreveport. I don't know, you use car a lot. I have investment properties, and I have a lot of other stuff going. Primarily, the reason for writing the book was just thinking about my personal sons. I have a 12-year-old son, a 6-year-old son. And I was thinking there are a lot of self-help books that I've read, but I've never read any that was specifically targeted to Black boys and Black men. I've read a lot of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Mind, The Alchemist. Just, I can name a lot of 48 Laws of Power, but none of those books speak to Black men and Black men experiences. So I just kind of wanted to put a roadmap of my personal experiences, which kind of mirror all Black men personal experiences if you grew up in America. So I wanted to put it in a book to kind of give guys just something to look at, to know that you're not the only one going through what you go through. And if God brought me through, he can bring you through as well. I didn't want them to feel alone. I want them to know that they matter. I wanted them to find a place of self-love. And I want them to know that you're just going through that thing. It's not who you are. It's just where you are right now. So that was really the basis of the book.
Okay. And joining us, Brother Bloomer, I'm going to just give us a quick introduction of who you are, and so that everyone out there know who you
Uh, okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Dexter Bloomer from Shreveport, Louisiana, Forest Oak. Um, Graduated from Southwood, but uh, husband, father, um, educator, teaching at Linwood currently. Um, Future superintendent of somebody's school district one of these days. Um, and this reverend thing is something new to me that I'm working on. While God working on me, I'm just working on accepting this challenge. But I just wanted to do what God asked me to do. But that's still a work in progress. And a true diehard Cowboys fan, and the member of the only frat, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And just excited to be on here with these brothers today. Um, get some encouragement. I know I've been encouraged these past few weeks. Just looking forward to our conversation.
are. All right, thank you. And Brother Mike Ephraim, if you would give us an introduction of you. Can you hear us, Ephraim?
I'm just Mike Ephraim, somebody that everybody knows. Minister Ephraim, I'm somebody that everybody knows. I'm just a common guy. I grew up in what is known to be Lakeside, Allendale. Went to Booker T. Washington. Actually, my hometown, my residence was in School Park. We were always considered to be the nonchalant of the neighborhood. They thought we had money and we didn't. But anyhow, I went to the Navy for 4 active years and 10 reserve years. I've been around the world. I met wonderful people. I got an associate's degree. I'm not that smart, but I am a man of God. I do see that there's a need for men to be men. And that's the problem with the world today. I don't think we would be in the conditions we are today if men were actually doing what God called them to do. And so I've always observed men. I've never had a father, but I've had a lot of spiritual church fathers, neighborhood fathers, family, friends, dads of friends of mine. And, when I look at Booker T. Washington, 90% of that was my training ground. And so school is not like it used to be when the teacher would pull you to the side and teach you how to pull your pants up, teach you how to wear a belt, teach you how to count money. Nowadays, teachers are just, I'm not nothing against teachers, but it's become more politicized. Everything is business orientated. And we need to get back to raising kids. And that's why I appreciate Pat Brown, because he puts emphasis on the man that God made. And that's the black man. We all have different races, cultures, but we as a culture need to focus more on what God created us to be.
I agree with you, brother Ephraim. Just speaking on what Pat Brown said about making that book. I've been reading books also. In this current book that I'm on, it was written in the 1920s. So it doesn't really apply to today's situations, to today's environment and culture. But I like how the book speaks to today's situation. It's about our young men, our boys in our city, in our neighborhoods that we see every day. It's something relatable, and I really like that.
Thank you.
Before we get started, anything I do, I just want to have a quick word of prayer, and we're gonna get started on this because we want to make sure that this goes out. So, Father God, we thank you for this opportunity to gather in this platform that we can reach out to men, to families, to communities as a whole. We ask that you bless this conversation, you bless this meeting of men, and bless those who've come on and joined us. And we want to ask you to reach out and touch and keep our boys safe, grow them up, and let them become productive men in our society. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right.
Amen.
So today we got a
Amen.
couple of topics, and I'm telling you, this first topic we will talk with it, but we may not get as in deep to it because the second one is really important, and we have a lot of time talking about that second. So chapter 5, Patrick, you wrote because Patrick in this book, Patrick deals with a lot of things that he experienced and things that he was taught and things he saw, things he heard, but he also addresses all the various aspects of young boys. And this one, chapter 5, is a topic that most people, especially, I'll say this, and it's in a number of communities, but in particular Black communities, we see it, but we don't really talk about it in itself. And the title of it is just gay is the title of it. And the focus of it is just be you. And so, Patrick, let's talk about why you put this in the book because it's very short. It's probably the shortest chapter in the book. But tell us why you put it in there and what was the aim for you with this chapter talking about gay? Because we know in the Black community, we don't like to really talk about homosexuality in a sense. Even in the Black church, we don't really deal with churches in general, don't deal with that. But I want you to explain why you have this in the book and what the focus was on it.
Well, of course, it's a very, very sensitive subject.
Very.
But I wouldn't be being true if I left it out of the book, because we grow up and we see and know guys that are living that lifestyle, and some of them are having a hard time dealing with it. Some of them would not want to be living that lifestyle, but nobody really reaches out to them, and nobody ever really talks to them. I know I never have. And so just speaking to somebody, just let me show you how God works. I was speaking to somebody, and I don't want to go too far because I don't want to put them out there, but speaking to somebody, they were telling me that, man, you don't know what it's like being touched as a young boy and being touched by a family member to the point to where you start liking it. And now you become an adult who that's what you like now, but you like it because you was introduced to it as a kid because of this sick family member. And that made me put that chapter, because that chapter wasn't going to be in the book. And so me being a Black male, majority of my life, I was homophobic, just to be honest. I didn't want to be around a gay guy. I didn't want to be seen talking to him too long because you don't want people to think that you gay. And so now as a 46-year-old adult, it doesn't bother me because I'm secure. And so if you're a friend, I'm going to be a friend. I'm not going to judge you because of that, because some people, we got a problem in the Black community with, now I'm finna go churchy, and I ain't trying to get nobody to believe what I believe, but we got a problem in the Black community with picking which sin is worse than the other sin. Like if you don't do something, you want to point out what they do. But we all got something that we do. We all got something. But if our sin ain't they sin, then we want to act like we better. So anyway, don't want to go too far in the net because everybody watching might not be a Christian. I don't know. But what I do know is that there are guys and boys that's dealing with that really need somebody to talk to. Some are dealing with it by choice. Some are dealing with it not by choice. And so I just didn't want to leave that out of the book because I wanted that person that's dealing with it to read it. And if they want to reach out to somebody, to know, okay, you can reach out to somebody that's not going to make fun of you, that's going to listen to you, and that's going to talk to you. So that's why I put it in the book.
And that's why I think it's good that we have this in this book. We do have a number of young boys, and I see them in the school system. I see them in the school system, and they are going through it. And I don't get into anything outside of that I am their principal, and I am there to help all of my students. regardless of where they're at. There was one thing you said in the chapter that needs to be put out there as it relates to young boys, is that not all of them were sexually abused, as you said, but the community as a whole, because of our feelings and what we feel in the Word of God, and I'm talking about the church, we undoubtedly sometimes lead these young boys to act in a very desperate way and make desperate choices and consequences. Our families have a tendency to ostracize them. Now, before anybody who is really thinking about what God says in the Word and the Bible, I understand what the Bible says. This is not a discussion about the spirituality of someone's lifestyle. We are talking about how young Black boys, all of the Black boys, even boys who have identified themselves as being gay or homosexual or whatever that may be, they are growing up and they are making decisions because they are afraid of the kickback from their families and their communities, and they are doing things that are detrimental to their lives and sometimes the lives of others. Brother, you're in the school system and you deal with sometimes even younger kids than me. What from your vantage point do you see with this?
Well, I agree. I'm with Pat Brown on this. That sometimes we don't either talk about it or reach out to even get a perspective of their opinion. Um, what I try to do is I try to lead by example, and we're not gonna judge anybody, but we're gonna judge you by your character, by how you treat each other, things of that nature. Um, I'm not the one to judge whether it's right or wrong. I mean, I can't judge whether it's right or wrong because the same way we feel as American men and things going on around the world and the way certain ethnic groups are being treated, those are the same ways that men feel and some women feel that are going through this issue. Um, they just want to be heard. They want to be treated fairly because you have those who don't see it as right or wrong. They have their varying opinions, but uh, as far as like my little ones, I just try to show them the right and wrong way, not to judge anybody by what they prefer or what they believe, because we all have our system of beliefs. So there's only one person who can tell us who right or wrong, who can be our judge. We here to love everybody, to support one another. And as I grew older, at first I thought it was wrong. I was homophobic as well. I didn't want to be around anybody that nature. But once I got to start interacting with people of that uh, who were call themselves gay or not or whatever, or may have been just act differently. But once I started to talk to them and get to know them as a person and find out how genuine they were as a person, they became some of the closest people that I talk to. You get some good knowledge from some of these people. You'll get some good understanding from them. So don't be so quick to judge a book by its cover. Get to know that person. Get to know them as an individual, and take off your restraints, take off your blinders, and be open.
Brother Ephraim, you've been preaching the word and you do a number of things at our church. And from your perspective, the Bible speaks about simply that we are to hate sin but love the sinner. But oftentimes people like to use that scripture when it applies to homosexuality. They don't want to use that as a precursor. You know what I'm saying? Like when we're quick to say that particular scripture when it applies to someone who is a alcoholic or someone who has committed adultery, things of that nature. And I see we lost Brother Ephraim on the feed, but in general, my point is we have young boys who legitimately are suffering in silence, and they go to school and then they grow up and literally wind up sort of, there's not an acting out, but we can force them to make decisions that are sometimes, let's be honest, some of them committing suicide because of this.
Yes, 100%. A lot of them are committing suicide. It's bad. It's pretty bad amongst that community. Um, and that's why I'm glad you bold enough to talk about it right now. I remember. Let me tell this story. Can I tell a story real quick?
Oh, right ahead.
Okay, so I remember when my son was 2 years old, and I went to pick him up from his mom's house, and he walks in the living room in some high heel shoes. So I snatch him out the shoes. Hey, boy, you don't do that. That's not what you do. Those are for women. Those are not for boys. Well, even while writing this chapter, I thought about that, because if I wasn't there to do that, and he's walking around in those shoes, and the women in the house laughing and thinking it's funny, and then he grow up doing it, sometimes you see these guys that are kind of feminine acting, but they're not gay. They just got a lot of women traits, the way they talk, their mannerisms and stuff. And sometimes it's because it wasn't a man around, or because they didn't. Not even if it wasn't their father, it just wasn't a masculine man around to show them how men are supposed to be in certain situations, how men are supposed to sit at a table, or how men are supposed to talk, how men are supposed to, walk. And so I didn't realize this stuff till I got older, that, some guys that are not as masculine as other men in their mannerisms is not because they're homosexual. But the Black community, we gonna give them, if it's a kid and he's walking a certain way and talking a certain way, they start treating them that way.
Yeah.
And so they grow up, and sometimes they become ostracized and they're not even gay, but they get treated like they are because they're not. We're raised to be these tough, strong bulls, and if you're not, then you're gay. I'm going all over the place, but just let me ramble for a second. In the white community, the white guy can talk soft and intelligent and not be loud, but the Black guy, it's like you have to wear your masculinity on the outside. You have to show it all the time, or you soft, or you weak, or you gay. And so it's a very touchy subject, but it's something that we have to talk about, and that's why I put it in the book.
But I think you make a point there when it comes to someone, whether like there are many. I got a few friends of mine who they're married, and I have no doubt that they're not homosexual or anything like that, or gay. But you're right, they may have mannerisms that are likened to that of a female. That is one of the things that we oftentimes grow up chastising boys about. You're right, things like that. We even tease, other boys may get teased growing up that, oh, you throw like a girl.
Right.
We say things like that. And man, you acting like a girl. And sometimes those are things because you do have young boys sometimes are raised exclusively by females, and sometimes the females are not trying to make them gay. I don't want anybody to think that we're saying females make a boy gay or make them act like a girl. That's not it. That's never the intentions of it. But those are the things that why it's important that men are in the lives of boys, not to chastise them about his femininity and things like that, but to actually help him and model for him various ways of how he conducts himself. This has nothing to do with whether or not someone is a homosexual, because I know some homosexual guys who are very masculine.
Right.
They're very masculine guys. So when we're talking about that, oftentimes in our society, my boys, we label people by what we see from the outside and have no clue what's going on in a person on the inside. And my point is that we have to be mindful that these boys who are legitimately being sexually abused and have developed a liking to that feeling. This is no different than a young lady, a young girl who's been sexually abused by men, and they are in the 8th grade and they will hit on adult men because they become accustomed to relating that way. We see this
Yes.
all the time. So I'm not saying that I don't want anybody to get any. We are talking about how, what the title of the book is, how lost Black boys wind up in certain situations because they are living and growing up hurting, unable to express themselves, unable to be who they should be. And that's why I love Patrick said, just be you. But it's hard for those young men to be who they are because as a parent, I grew up like many of you, and it was difficult for me to come to the concept that my son could possibly be gay. So the Black community and community as a whole has to start to really look at how we're raising our children by the expectations and the limitations we put on our children to be who they can be so that it fits our comfortable narrative. That's what we have to be honest about.
All right.
Okay.
Yes. I agree.
And then also that level of exposure. As we said, what you see, you're more likely to become. I remember you all having this discussion about growing up in the neighborhood, but also, for example, even being in this 4th grade classroom, the way that I carry myself, I'm a man of very few words, but the boys in my classroom, they're looking at how I carry myself, how I talk to the women in the hallway, how I respond to the boys and girls in the classroom. And I had a co-worker, a co-teacher come and tell me that, Mr. Bloomer, they're looking at you and they're paying attention to your mannerisms because they come to my classroom and they try to carry themselves like you. So we have to just be aware of that. And what I mean by aware of what we're showing is because when I was growing up in the 90s, we didn't have YouTube and Instagram and Facebook to be exposed to all these type of things. I didn't really see someone of a transgender or anything like that till I got into college and going away to different places. So just being exposed to that, because now I got 4th graders who are exposed to it, they can pull it up and look at it at any time. So what kind of conversations do we have to respond to that? Because when I was growing up, a boy is supposed to like a female, and that was the end of the discussion. And but now it goes a little deeper because they're looking at things. They're having these discussions. They're on TikTok, and you never know what's going on TikTok that's rubbing them the wrong way. But how do we respond to these things? Because the wrong response could drive them away to not want to talk. It could drive them to not want to find a better way to handle it, not want to talk to a counselor, not want to go into the church. But how do we talk and respond to these young boys about these issues? So that's my question.
I totally agree with what you're saying there. And then we have to look at it in one regards. The one of the biggest, if not the greatest pillar of this Black community, certainly, especially when you're talking about us with civil rights and all that, has been the church. I'm not proposing that the church turns away from what the Bible and Scripture says, but what I am suggesting is that the church address the issues as it relates to these young boys and these ministries and different things like that. Not in a sermon and so forth. But what I mean, address it by stop having others look at and ostracizing people. When it says train up a child, it didn't say in that regards. So regardless of where the child may be, the child still needs to learn to grow up reverencing God. They still need to learn reverencing their parents, working hard, seeking their goals in life. But it's hard for these children, whether they're dealing with an issue of homosexuality or dealing with, I got to prove I'm tough, as we talked about last week, that I got to prove I'm tough and I'm walking around frowning all the time. Or we talk about children who, because they don't quite get things in the, like everybody else, they're feeling negative about their intelligence and so forth. So that is something that has to be addressed, and we have to really deal with that, because regardless of what it is causing the boy to struggle, the fact is he's struggling, and we got to help all boys. That's my point. We got to help them in that regard. You know, we got to deal with that. One of the things that you said in this chapter, Pat, and I thought it was interesting here, and so forth, is that you said that God used the same system to create the universe as you do. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. That's the next chapter, which is a powerful chapter. But you said that once you accept where you are in life and who you are in life, you will be free to live your most authentic self, and peace of mind will begin. Kind of elaborate on that of as you relate, because this was a message that you were saying to gay boys, but it's a message that can be applied to all boys, I'm assuming. But give some more insight on that.
Basically, I was just saying, love yourself and accept who you are. Be okay with who you are. A lot of times especially with social media, it's bad now with social media. We see everybody else's life, and we get lost in other people's lives and other people's happiness. But what is your personal happiness? Like, we find ourselves feeling like we're not living us. My phone is sorry. We find ourselves feeling like we're not living up to a certain standard based on what we see on social media or what we see around us. But what's your personal happiness? Be okay with what makes you happy, and accept it, and be okay with it. And that's basically that's it. Nothing deep about that one. Just trying to tell those young boys to be okay with who they are. Learn to love yourself first. You can't love anybody else or be happy in any other environment until you learn to be happy within yourself. Joy is internal, it ain't external. So you got to find joy within yourself.
Right. And I think that is the key. Regardless of what is the aspect of a person's lifestyle or the things they're dealing with, I think when we can help young boys and young people in general, when we can help them accept who they are and stop comparing themselves with other people. One of the things I used to tell my son is, when he went off to college, don't get down there and compare yourself with other people. And in particular, football, I told him, don't get up there and compare yourself with other guys. I said, there's going to be guys faster than you. There's going to be guys bigger than you. There's going to be guys who got more experience than been down there. So you've got to work on you. You've got to develop you. And the more time you spend on developing you, who you are and what it is you want to do and be, the happier you're going to be. And the happy is not, ha, 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 I feel good. The happy is the peace of mind that I have accepted and I can deal with my ups and downs. Yes. Our young boys cannot deal with the ups and downs in their lives because in most cases, as we're talking about young gay boys, or you got someone growing up in poverty, they're beaten down by that aspect of their life. They don't have a chance to concentrate on what's good in their life.
Right.
And oftentimes the family is the one that do more of the oppression of the child than the outside. Because
Right.
in the school system, obviously the young gay boys in the school system typically hang out with all other girls,
Yeah.
or they hang out with other young gay boys. And
Right.
so those girls are always, I see them encouraging these young men all the time, and I see the young men encouraging them. So they are gravitating more and more. And that's what I don't think a lot of parents understand. Instead of them sitting down and helping their child navigate through it. When I mean navigate, the pitfalls of this, if you come out and say you're gay or you're homosexual, whatever, parents a lot of times are the ones who are unable to help them, even though they know. The parents know early on, oftentimes, and they want to
Right.
ignore it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I say, and I say it all the time, there are two kinds of people: those that don't know and those that don't want to.
Yeah.
So as parents, we sometimes we know our children. A shepherd knows his sheep. So if
Yeah.
you've been really training up your children, because people like to throw that up, train up a child in the way that they should go. To train up your child means that you know your child. You know what they need to be better at.
Yeah.
But oftentimes we know our children and the things that we don't like about them, if they're gay or homosexual, or they're not as intelligent as other children should be. They don't speak as well. I know parents who allow their children to grow up with ear infections, and they can't even articulate words, and they wind up having poor speech and wind up getting put in special ed at an early age, all because the parent ignored a health issue, like they needed to get their ears checked. They couldn't hear words right, so they're pronouncing words wrong. They start to develop slowly, because if you can't hear properly, or to communicate right, you're going to develop certain types of things, unless you just go deaf, and then you have to learn how to. But at a young age, children are developing how to speak, how to do this. And then when they get in school, the teachers and administrators hear this defect in their speech and want to label them. They start to get labeled as slow and things like that. And it's all because what was missed at a younger age: hearing infection.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the parents, what I'm saying, parents, don't ignore your children crying out and acting out and suppress it by saying things that make you comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the point of that. And so your children are going to be who they're going to be. You can play a part in helping develop them so they become a positive person of who they're going to be, or you're going to play a part of them developing to something and creating a negative of who they're going to be. It's one or the
Yeah.
other.
I agree completely.
That's true. And for example, I had a conversation with an older lady one time, and I told her the same way that you will feel during the civil rights era being oppressed by certain individuals, and you take that to heart. That's how these young men feel when they can't open up, or they're being ostracized by their own community. They've been talked about by their own family. They've been neglected by their own family. So we want to be heard by the world. These young men, they want to be heard by their families. They want their mothers and fathers just to hear them. We might not agree with it, but just to be open and hearing. And that's hard, because as a man, you think about all the time, how would I receive if I had a son in this gender? How would I receive that? Part of you wants to haul off and be like, nah, man, you can't be like that. You got to be a man. You got to be straight. But at the same time, you want to love your son. You know that's your son, especially if you got one. But that's a hard thing to do. How do we encourage these young men to identify who they are and become themselves? Just become a positive role model in life. Be something positive, because those are the same young men who could come out and talk to other young men and make them productive citizens, to eliminate them from committing suicides, eliminate them from not speaking to their mothers and fathers for 30, 40 years. You got some men out here right now who hadn't spoken to family members in 20 or 30 years because of who they are or what they prefer, their preference. They might be transgender, or might just be a soft talking male, and their family don't get along with them. That's very hurtful, and that's part of splitting up the black family. So we gotta just figure out a way how to come to understanding of one another, because it's a very hurtful thing. It's a very, very lonely thing for some. So they're still in some strange places in their life. And I know, just from my perspective, I'm not talking about being gay, but just this whole being a minister thing. From where I was in my 20s to now in my 30s, being 33 years old, I have a different feeling about it, a different mindset about it. And you have some young men out here who in their teens and 20s who don't know how to accept being gay. They don't know how to talk about being gay. They have in a group of friends right now, and all of them supposed to be macho and have girls. But then you got one maybe undercover. He don't know how to express himself. But as you get older, you start to become comfortable in things that you're called to do. And that's one thing that I encourage anybody: if you're gay or whatever, find out what you're called to do. And you'll find that passion, that joy. Like he said, you gotta have joy in whatever you're doing.
And I agree with that. Well, the other area that we need to talk about, because really, Patrick, I don't know if you planned it like this when you did the book, but to go into in the next chapter to talk about manifestation is huge, because it really deals with all people uh, 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 at an early age and at any point in their life, actually creating and becoming what it is that they dream themselves of becoming. Uh,
Yes.
Brother Bloomer actually gave an example of something you said in his book, when he said, when he was doing his introduction, that he's going to be a superintendent someday. So talk
Yes.
about this, because your quote was, I find inspiration in everything around me. And this is talking about manifestation. Talk about manifestation from your perspective on your book.
Well, I mean, now manifestation to me is the most important chapter,
Yeah.
because it's being able to see, you know, where you want to be, not necessarily where you are. And it's the whole essence of God.
Mm-hmm.
It's God creating the world. It's God, the world was void. It's God speaking, saying, let there be light.
Yeah.
And so we have that same power within us. Whatever you say will happen. If you constantly saying, every time I turn around, it's always something. If you that type of person that talk like that, then guess what? It's gonna always be something. And so whatever you are, that's what you attract. And
Mm-hmm.
and so the manifestation chapter is so important to me. You have to see it first, then you have to speak it, then you have to write it down, and then you have to, you gotta believe it and just keep repeating it, and it will happen. You can change your world with your words and your thoughts.
And you said, and this is a quote from the book. For those of you, once again, if you don't have this book, I'm going to tell you right now, go and purchase this book, Lost Black Boys. Look for it. Author is Patrick Brown, who's showing us with us right now. Please go. But he says in his book, in chapter 6, you say that God gave you the power to change your world with your thoughts. Thoughts become words, and words become your reality. Now, I'm going to tell you, when I read that, for those of you who know, when I read it, I thought about what is said in Romans chapter 12, verses 2. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's what I
Mm,
immediately thought of.
mm.
Brother Bloomer, from your perspective, being transformed by the renewing of your mind, how does that play a part and us helping young boys to get to that point to help change their lives or their projection in life.
That's a very powerful statement. Because, for example, we were speaking earlier about not having that encouragement in the home or in the neighborhood, so then you don't think that you can do it. One thing that I try to teach or instill every day is what we can do and what we will do. That you can do it, and all that starts by just giving the effort, by trying. If you don't try, you never will achieve or succeed in anything. One of the things that has taught me and what I learned from the most is from my no's or my losses. And my no's and my losses just allow me to think even bigger, to want to go even further. Because when you might have lost one, but then you come back and win the next one. Well, just don't settle for that one win. Why not go ahead and try to win all of them? Why not go for the championship? Don't just settle for just a few. But and even now, with our lost black boys and being in whatever situation you might be in, impoverished or whatever it may be, and you feel like you're not gonna be successful. This not gonna happen for me. It's not for me. But then there goes the power of those words. That I'm gonna get up out of here one day. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make it. And somebody may laugh at you and look at you funny, but next thing you know, 10 years later, when you put in that grind and that effort, that time, it'll come true. I'm pretty sure Mr. Brown and didn't just start with a car lot, but he had to figure out a way and keep telling himself that I'm gonna do this one day. I'm gonna become successful one day, because it just don't happen overnight. You gotta talk and speak them things on yourself, and surround yourself with positive people who talking positive with you. You know, if you around those who saying that you can't do it and you trying to tell yourself I can do it, I'm gonna make it happen. That's gonna play a mind game on you. It's gonna have you steady in that middle place, stuck. But you know, these words have power, and that power, it comes from those delays. It comes from those no's. I was watching. I like Dame Lillard, and because every time that he get up the hoop, he going all in. He believe he can win, and one day it's gonna manifest itself to even better results, higher results. And so we just have to remember that in whatever situation we face, just to continue to tell yourself what you can do, what I will do. I will be doing this. I can see myself doing this. Whatever field that you may be in, shoot for the highest level. And one thing I always try to see is if I say that I want to be president and I may not get to president, I might at least fall in the vice president level. I mean, but if you don't say it and speak that on yourself, then you'll stay at the bottom.
Right. And you're right on what you just said, because Patrick, you said that if your friends or associates don't laugh at you when you tell them your dreams, then your dreams aren't big enough. What do you mean by that?
Man, okay. Great question. So anything that you want to accomplish, if you can accomplish it on your own without God, it ain't big enough. Like, okay, let me make sure I explain this correctly. So the things that we see in life that are great. I mean, things like the cell phone, things like the internet, things like the airplane. You know God was involved with that. That wasn't just that person. And when those people told their surrounding people, hey, I'm gonna invent an airplane, hey, I'm gonna invent a cell phone, hey, I'm gonna create this thing called the internet. But hey, I'm gonna create this thing where you can see people on this tube. It's gonna sound crazy to people. They're gonna laugh at it. They're gonna go, what? How you gonna do that? Even if you're trying to, you play sports. I'm sure it was things you accomplished that some of your friends and maybe even family members didn't see that you would be able to accomplish. Yeah. But you tell them, hey, I'm gonna get a scholarship playing football. Let them laugh. If they don't, if you're not reaching high, then you ain't reaching. and if everybody else can see the vision that God put in you, then that vision ain't big enough. Because some stuff only you and God can see. That's it. Let me say this: your max potential stuff only you and God can see. Not even your wife, your kids, your friends. They can't see it because God placed it in you. So if they don't go, what? How you gonna do that? Then that goal, that dream ain't big enough.
and let's think about this. Parents, how oftentimes do parents laugh at their children who tell them they want to do this or be that, and snuff out that dream at a young age? Can you imagine?
They do it.
Man, can you
go
imagine?
Ahead, I'm sorry, I want to cut you off.
Yeah, I must say, how can you imagine how many young boys said, black boys, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to be president of the United States one day. And everybody there, boy, you can't be ain't no black person can be no. And now,
right.
Now you can't tell that boy that today because for whatever reason, God, as you said, set that in stone. So now these boys can say that. But think about just some of the other things that they come up and say that they want to do and be. And we boy, you crazy. There ain't no way you can do it. Yeah. That is what I got out of this book, that even children, now I'm not telling any young boy out there to be disrespectful or dishonor your parents, but I even tell my children, sometimes you're going to have to ignore even what I say to you because I don't know what God put on you to be,
right?
And so our closest friends and family members can oftentimes be the hindrance or the obstacle in us becoming what we can be because, and I'm going to say this, parents, I'm going to say this, and please don't be offended. I am the same way. But sometimes we are limited by what we have accomplished and what we have done or were not able to do. And we push that negativity and we push that onto our children. And our children grow up with that. I'm going to give y'all a case in point, and I know black folk don't like to talk about this. It ain't about black and white, but it is the truth. We sometimes, and we see white parents let their children do all kinds of stuff, say all kinds of, be all they can do, and we be like, boy, ain't no way in the world no black parent gonna let their child do that. But white children tend to grow up feeling privileged that they have the right to do and say and act and be any way they want to be because they were raised that way. I'm not saying let your children be callous. But what I'm saying is let them be expressive in a way that allows them to feel good about voicing their opinion. In the late 1800s, 1700s, all the way up to probably the 1980s, certain societies in the United States, black men, black boys were called the same thing, boys. You couldn't look them in the eye. You could not, the expectation that you could go work for this company, you couldn't live in that neighborhood. People grew up with those type of limitations. And they put that on their children, and their children put it on their children. Go ahead.
I got to piggyback on what you said because you're getting real deep. I don't know if you know how deep you're getting, but you're getting real, like God using you right now. So let me tell you how deep that is, what you're saying. So with black people, and I'm one of those people, we're different with our kids. My youngest right now is 6. And my next is 12. My oldest is 24. My 24-year-old, I was much meaner. My patience was shorter. Because I didn't realize what I'm getting ready to tell you right now. We treat our kids, we have tendencies of the slave master.
Yes.
The slave masters beat us and whooped us and was aggressive. So we're the same way. Sit your butt down. When the kid is just playing and expressing, you go to the mall, you see the white kid running around. As long as they ain't doing nothing criminal, that parent don't say nothing.
Yeah.
But And so I had to realize my little 12-year-old who really is a comedian, he might be the next Kevin Hart or Chris Tucker or Martin Lawrence. But I'm not gonna beat him because especially the school systems, they don't even know how to handle little black boys. They ain't always being bad. Like if it ain't criminal, sometimes it's just expression.
Yeah.
And a lot of times in our community, we gonna beat them. We want them to sit there with no personality. Sit your butt down somewhere. Stop all that running. Stop all that playing. Stop all that jumping. You talk too much. Yeah. Well, when I was younger, my mama called me Motor Mouth. That was my nickname. Now I got a book. So yeah, I did talk a lot because I had a lot in me that I wanted to get out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to applaud you for even bringing that up because we got to learn how to allow our kids, especially our black boys, but just kids, period, and other people, just to express themselves. If it's not criminal or negligent, then it's okay. Let them express themselves. And so that's a great point because in our community we don't do that as much as other races do, and it's just the truth. It's not a knock on us, but we don't.
And I'll go back to, like I said, people throw out that train up a child. And train your children to be able to talk to you respectively and say, Daddy, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but when you said this or when you did that, this is how it made me feel. And you have always told me to speak up for myself. So we will tell our children, speak up for yourself. But then when they say something to us and we don't like it, we want to accuse them being disrespectful and they want to smack them in the mouth. But we can't have it both ways. Yeah. We got to allow, see, many of our children are struggling because of limitations of the parents, not because of the world. And I will prove that to anybody who want to tell me that it's the world. And well, guess what? The first doctor in America didn't come after integration. We had black scientists and doctors in the 1700s. How did these people get in there? We had people going to Harvard and Ivy League schools in the 19th century. That ain't nothing new. What I'm trying to tell people is that black people have been making it and making it big because of the determination they had in their heart and their mind and the encouragement by their parents and their society. So that is the point. When I hear people talk about that, we have got more limitations on our children right now than the children had growing up during the hardest, deepest segment of segregation. Yeah. We pushed them. During integration, we pushed our children. I don't know how many of y'all remember this, but when I was in elementary school in the early 70s, when we were in school, we were being given character education to look people in the eye, walk around with your head up. Why were they teaching black kids that? They don't teach character education in white schools or predominantly white classes. It was with predominantly black schools, black kids. We had to teach them that because it was a society that made our daddies and our granddaddies, called them boys, and if they didn't respond, they were chastised, as you said. So what has happened now is that children are more expressive, but they're more expressive because they hadn't been trained up how to be and when to be expressive. Yeah. The Bible says there's a time, we still have to do it, but we have to encourage their dreams. We have to push them into those places of uncomfortability. And I'm gonna put, let me say this, and I'm gonna let someone else talk, because this is something, as an educator, as a parent, this is very passionate. I'm very passionate about this. When a mother eagle, or in a matter of fact, eagles, male and female eagles, raise the young, by the way. A lot of people don't know that. But when they build the nest with the thorns and everything sticking outward, and the inside of the nest is comfortable. so that the baby chick is nurtured and comfortable, and the mama and the daddy goes and get fish or whatever and come feed, and they feed them, each of them. But as the baby chick starts to get older, they start to rearrange the nest. Now
Yeah.
some of the thorns and the sticks are sticking inside and not so much outside. So that every time that little chick tries to sit down and stay comfortable where it was, they hop up because it's sticking them, and it makes them flap their wings. And they start to learn and be encouraged to flap their wings. Why are they being encouraged to flap their wings? Because one day they got to go fly, and they got to fly solo. So the
Yeah.
mother eagle, and they're teaching them. So what I'm saying to parents is, as you nurture your children older, you've got to nurture them so that they learn to trust you and believe what you say. And that's why your child cries when you drop them off the first time for daycare, because they don't know if you're coming back. But as you come back and get them every day, all of a sudden, when you leave, they running out the car. You ain't got to open the door for them. They running into the building because they know you're going to come back. But there
Yeah.
comes a time in which you have to make it a little uncomfortable for your children so that they can stand on what you taught them, what you modeled for your children. And when they do that, because the world is going to get uncomfortable, they're going to leave the home and somebody's going to tell them something negative. They got to
Yeah.
remember what you said, baby, you are a king, you are a queen, and they got to remember that. And that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, that helping our children with this manifestation is part of it, allowing them to be who they're going to be, but training them how to manifest and strengthen that part. That's the point there. Make it comfortable, but push them and encourage them to be what they're called to be. And if they're called to be an eagle, they're called to soar. That's what they're called to
Yes.
be. That's what
Yes.
they are.
Well, Dick's
Yeah.
like he got a lot of stuff on his mind. Go ahead and say so. I see you over there
Man,
sitting quiet.
Go ahead, Bluma.
I mean, I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll start with even as just to train up the children. I got a 4-year-old who going on 17 seemed like, because our conversations they I sometimes have to check myself and like, these conversations going a little deep. She asking a lot of questions. She want to know, but I encourage her to ask those questions, not to just not make you feel bad for asking those questions. I encourage her to respond and let me know how I make her feel as her father, because she needs to be able to express herself when somebody hurts her feelings. Hey, you hurt my feelings, and this is why you hurt my feelings. And part of me wants to be like, you just my child. Go over there and sit down. But then the other half, as we're speaking on, wants her to be able to express herself, because when she gets older, she needs to be able to express herself and not just have that mindset or that mentality that nobody wants to hear what I have to say. And that's the same thing for our boys and girls. I encourage them to speak your mind. How do you feel about this situation, this circumstance? When somebody does something, you need to speak on it. You need to address that situation. We have a lot of things going on in our community, in our world, and because of the mindsets that have been given to us from the past, I feel like we are evolving into a different mindset. Sometimes we're reluctant to speak on some issues. I know some when I as being a younger when I was younger, it was some topics that you just didn't bring up to adults or you just didn't talk about. And now, when I'm in front of children, I encourage them to, let's talk about this. Let's speak on this. And even in our school system, uh, just what we teach and how we teach it. We might be teaching a part of government, and I'm teaching young black boys and black girls about senators, and they never seen a senator in their neighborhood. They never seen a congressman or anything like that. But teaching them that, hey, you can become this senator, you can become that congressman to come back and make a change. Let's take a look. Now we have our very own mayor, Adrian Perkins, young man, who went off and done some things of success, came back. He's a mayor now. He's a potential candidate for a higher level. Our young man, they need to see that and know that they can achieve that. But then that starts at the home, being able to encourage them. Hey, you can do that when they come in the room, that ain't for you. That them people from the other side of the tracks. Nah, you can do it as well. But we got to support them. We got to be that support system to let them know that it's okay for you to speak out, to want to strive for more, to manifest yourself, to grow and be in positions of power. But that's part of coming back, starting here at home. You know, I believe that, you know, I don't know about too much of the past because I wasn't there. I don't know how it was like in my grandfather's day to be around certain individuals. But now when I go around some of these same individuals, I may see them differently. I might look in their face differently. Whereas my great grandfather may have not have looked in their face. So now I'm looking in their face and I'm even talking differently. Now I'm passing that down to other generations, because now we got to be able to manifest everything that's in us to be great.
And listen, and something that also stood out from me, Patrick, that you said was that whatever you want to see take place in your life, start carrying yourself as if it's already done, and it will be. Now you
Yes.
know you got to explain, because we got young boys who may be hearing this. We got men, grown men who are hearing this. What do you mean about carry yourself as if it's already done? How do we get them to do that when they can't see it? Because I'm going to tell you what scripture comes to mind when I hear you say that. The scripture that comes to mind to me is, we walk by faith, not by sight. That's what comes to mind when I hear you say, start carrying yourself as if it's already done, and it will be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you look at most successful people in any industry, they have these habits. They have habits of successful people. So I'm just gonna talk about me, because I don't want to ever sound like I got it all together. But this is for me. If I want to be this successful car, used car salesman, used car owner, if I want to be this successful real estate investor, I'm a master procrastinator. That's one of my problems. I get up early and I wait to the last minute before I leave my house. Well, that's not a trait of somebody successful. You have to carry yourself. You can't cheat. You can't cheat life. You can't cheat and get there. LeBron James is not playing the length of time he's been playing by luck. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's a flopper or he cries or whatever, we have never seen somebody play this long in that type of shape. He's still playing like he's in his 20s. That's not luck. That's a lot of hard work that's taking place. And so a lot of people want the reward, but they don't want to go through the thing to get to the reward. So you have to carry yourself. You have to, for example, there are people who want nicer cars, but the car they got is junky. They don't wash it. Yeah. They don't keep it clean. It's nasty. But you want a nicer car. You ain't taking care of the car you got.
Yeah.
So yeah. I try to make it make sense on a where anybody can understand. You know, you want this nice body, but you want to take a pill to get the nice body. You want to get surgery to get the nice body. When all you have to do is start the baby steps right now of what you put in your mouth. What you put in your mouth is more important than going to any gym. It starts with what you put in your mouth. So basically, anything that you want to become, first of all, we gotta swallow our pride. When I look at you, Mr. Grant, and I know you didn't just wake up and become a black principal. That didn't just happen. So if I'm in the school system and I want to be a principal, I have to watch you. What did he do? How did he get there? How does he carry himself? How does he dress? How does he speak to people? How does he respond in certain situations? If my life ain't nowhere near that, or if I'm not mirroring that in any way, then I need to change some things.
Right.
Because I read this one time. It said if you take the 10 most successful people, the 10 richest people in the world, the 10 richest people in the world, and you take all of their money away, in 10 years, they will be back the 10 richest people. Because it's something inside of them. It's their habits. It's the way they maneuver and move on a day-to-day basis. And somehow we've taken out the work part of being successful. And success ain't just money. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about physical health. I'm talking about your spiritual knowledge. I'm not gonna know the Bible like you know the Bible if I'm not reading the Bible like you read the Bible. So that's all. I ramble when I go on and on, but you have to carry yourself as if it's already happened. You know. And then it will start happening.
So in your book, you have a guide to manifestation. It's 5 points and that you make. And some of it is this here. I'm gonna read them all, and you give a short reason for why that took place. And Brother Bloomer, once you stop fooling with your camera, then you can chime in too. But you said the first thing is get real quiet and talk to God inside of you. Sometimes you have to go to a quiet place in order to hear the voice of God speaking inside of you. Quickly, in a sentence or two, what do you mean by that?
Okay, I'll be real quick. So, get off of social media. Number one, get off of social media and find you a quiet place in your home where it's just you and God. It's nobody else. Because everything we hear and see affects our thoughts. So you got to get to a quiet place to where your only thoughts is on God. Nothing else. You don't hear a horn blowing. You don't hear kids playing. Because everything you hear and see affects what you think. And so when you're trying to truly connect to God, you need to get to a quiet place. You need to quiet all the noise, everything. That's all. Just that simple.
I see we lost Brother Bloomer's feed, but
I know it's just
right.
me and you. That's all right.
Good. That's how it was meant to be. Well, number two, you said you must realize that you don't belong in your current circumstances and better days are ahead. So what do you mean by that?
Well, this just goes back to your scripture on faith. You got to know that God loves us and He wants what's best for us. And so whatever we're going through that has us down, it's only a lesson. It's not where we're supposed to be, and it's not where we're going to be. Just know that there's a lesson in whatever situation you're in that you don't like. Learn that lesson and hold on to your spiritual beliefs and hold on to your faith, and you will come out of it.
Well, point number 3, you said face where you are in life and take responsibility. What do you mean by that?
That means accept that you're in the position you're in because of you, not because of somebody else. I don't care what it is. Whatever situation you're in, whatever situation I'm in, it's because of me. It's decisions I made. It's nobody else's fault. Nobody else got me there. And so in order to get out of it, I got to get myself out of it. But I can't get myself out of it until I accept that I'm in it because of me.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, because when I saw it, I was like, well, I got the power to get myself out of something that I put myself into. And the more that I recognize that, if I recognize I got that power, then when things go bad, I got the power to make things good again. And
yes.
not, totally right. And so that's an important aspect, to take responsibility for your words, your actions, your thoughts, and so forth. Is what I got out of that. Then number 4, you said start envisioning where you want to be and what you want to achieve in life. Speak on that.
Well, what is it that you want? What's your personal goal? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? How do you want your life to end? How do you want your life to play out? You have to begin with the end in mind. And that's important for anybody, for adults, for kids, for any human being. Like, how do you want your story to end? And it's important and you're not welcoming death. How do you want your life to go? And you put that on paper. And then you look at it often and you remember it and you read it and it will happen.
It will happen, yeah. And so, because within that, the subtext of that was, affirmation, positive affirmation, I should say, and then write it down. I said that to a lot. I said to my son, write it down, and not only write it down. What is it going to take? Start with the end goal in mind. So
Yes.
if I want to be this, I need to walk it back to where I'm at, of what steps I have to accomplish to get there. And
Yes.
in doing so, then I can write down my goals for the week. So my goals for the week, and I say this to young people all the time, what are some things you can do that does not require the assistance of anybody else? So if you want to be in National Honor Society, and that means you got to have a certain GPA, then during the week, what are you going to do during the week that don't require anybody else? And I would tell them something like, you need to go and research and read this. You don't require nobody else to do that.
Right.
I don't have to, so which means then I start to have more control over my destiny. I have more control of where I want because I'm not reliant on strictly someone. Now, you're going to need people in life. I don't want anybody to assume that. You're going to need people in life. But at the end of the week, like I tell you, at the end of the week, I can judge how close I'm getting to where I want to be based off of whether or not I accomplish these things. So if I want to love my wife more, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make sure at least 3 times in a week, I'm going to do something she did not expect that's affirming my love for her. At the end of the week, if I hadn't done that, then I know I ain't meeting my goals. And it's simple
Right.
as that. It is simple as that. So write it down and then talk about and write about what it is it's going to take. Get there and see it every day. Put it somewhere where you see it every day.
Yes.
Every day. You got to put it there and so forth. And then you said number 5, you said plant good things in your mind that brings out the best in you. Plant good things in your mind that bring it. Now, I kind of understand what that means, but I want you to explain that.
Well, we see so much negative stuff on the news, on social media, and so you have to replace those images and sounds and thoughts with positive things. You have to watch, platforms like this. You have to watch. You gotta find you a good spiritual leader, a spiritual man that you trust, that you can talk to, that's gonna give you encouragement. You have to replace, because you're gonna always get the negativity. That's what the world does. We're not gonna escape it. People, bad news travel faster, and it's more entertaining than good news. So you're gonna always see foolishness, and I'm to the point now. I mean, I hate seeing the fights and stuff on Facebook, but sometimes I click on it, and then as soon as I'm on, I'm like, I don't want to see this mess, because I don't want it in my head. I don't want these negative images in my head.
Right.
Like he's back with us. But that's it. You just got to replace those negative images and negative sounds and thoughts with positive stuff.
And the one thing about this, the internet and all of that, it's a powerful tool when used properly. But
Yes.
I'm gonna say a quote. It's an Ethiopian proverb, actually. Bob Marley put it in one of his songs, but it says that in the abundance of water, a fool is still thirsty. And
Mm.
literally, children and people have this phone and they have all of this resources and everything at their fingertips, and yet they are consumed with the negative stuff and they still can't get information. Information is the most valuable commodity we have today. All of what's on the internet operates off of information, and they will sell your information, and people are making billions and trillions of dollars off of having information of
Yes.
people's likes and don'ts and what you want to do and your things and all of that. And they send you specific commercials and ads based off of what you like and what you
Yes.
do. And so that is where we have to make sure with our boys in particular that they need to understand that so they think is how they're going to react, and the way they react is writing chapters in their books of life, and that book may end in a bad way.
Yes.
Some young men are incarcerated because of the fact that a couple of things, that the environment around them wasn't nurturing, the home wasn't as nurturing, and then, but more importantly, their own individual thoughts didn't nurture them. And
I agree.
and that's where we have to be with that. You had said something earlier, and I want, and when I say it, you probably be able to explain this because you've been doing it, you've been living it. A Malenka, it's from a Malenka tribe, but it says nothing is accomplished in a dream.
Right.
No, no. So talk about that. Nothing is accomplished in a dream. You
No, you
see
gotta work. Faith
it.
without works is dead.
That's right,
You,
and that's the point. So the manifestation that you talk about in this book and what we're dealing with men, everything goes back to the individual, regardless of, and parents, I'm saying this to you, regardless of the environment that your child are in, because we got some great people who came from negative environments, and we got some terrible people who came from great environments as far as what you think they would have. But two people growing up in the same household under the same rules can have different experiences because it's how each individual perceives their place. And that's why it's important, parents, that you talk with your boys, allow them to express their thoughts, because they having these thoughts but don't really know how to work it out. And
I
if we
agree.
don't do that, we cause them to operate with blurred vision. Their visions are blurred. They kind of see it, but they don't quite understand it. And they're making a decision. It's sort of like me. I got to put on glasses now so I can see certain things. Otherwise, if I take them off, I'm straining to see it in some words. And Lord knows if I got to punch in some numbers, like say my credit card number, I can mess up big time when I do that. So that's what I wanted to, talk about. So I want to give you the floor on those two chapters to close us out as we get ready to close out this particular broadcast here on manifestation and just lost boys in itself.
Well, the main thing is, reading it one time is not going to change your way of thinking, but read it over and over. It's just like the Bible. We've been reading the Bible for years. And so you can become whatever you want to become. And it starts with your thoughts. It starts with your belief in yourself. And in the chapter manifestation, that's all manifestation is. Manifestation is bringing something that nobody else sees to life. It's bringing your inner thoughts and your inner beliefs to life. And you can do that by positive affirmations. And affirmations is saying those things, speaking out loud, those things that you want to happen. Speaking out loud, those things that are not in existence yet, but it's inside of you. and you speak them, you write it down, and then you live it every day, and you continue to believe it and speak it and read it every single day, and eventually it will happen.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think a lot of what we've said today, but also what we know and we see is a manifestation of either um, a good judgment by people and poor judgment by people. And for our children, it's critical, and parents and those out there, it is critical that you are very sincere about yourself when raising your children, so that they don't develop these fallacies about what it's going to take to be successful. Many children today are looking for the quick fast track. They want it now. And there's nothing wrong with wanting it now. It's just that you got to have right now preparation. You got to have right now work ethic. You got to have those things, right now attitude, in order to get these things right now. And oftentimes, our children will grow up seeing someone who is what they deem as successful, and have no clue how that person achieved that. I think one of the things in your book, as you talked about the gentleman that, he was averaging 30 plus car sales a month, and you were like, what did he do? And then you figure it out what he did. He ain't just sit around
Right.
and look. He ain't sit around and look good, and people just he behind the scenes putting in work.
Right.
And so I think the thing that I think I enjoyed most about this book is that it's there. Each of the chapters are linked. As you read it, you start to realize that it is the message is similar. It's just dealing with this particular aspect of growing up, of being a man. But those are similar principles within this book.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. Um, it's a small book with a big message, and it's a simple book, but it has valuable lessons in it. And anybody that picks it up and reads it with an open mind can learn. And there's a chapter in there for everybody. Every chapter may not apply to each person, but there is a chapter in there for everybody. And especially manifestation, because we all, need to manifest more. If you ain't growing, then what are you doing? So we all have room to grow every single day, each of us.
That's
And
right.
and anybody that's watching this, just know that whatever situation you're in, you don't have to remain there. You can manifest your way out of that situation. You just have to believe in yourself and believe that you can, and it will happen.
Well, listen, man. Once again, I'm super proud of just knowing you now and having this book. We got two more chapters that I think are outstanding that we'll finish up with this book on next week. Right Circle and Never Give Up, which are
Yes.
powerful statements in itself. Want everybody out there just to be in prayer for Pastor Wilson and his family as they're actually funeralizing his aunt. I want to thank Brother Bloomer and Brother Ephraim, who came on, but had some connections issues that get off. But more importantly, even right now, we want to thank Patrick Brown for the insight into this book, for writing this book, and for being what the book is. If you want to know who Patrick Brown is, actually, guys, go read this book, and you're gonna find out who he is. And then you won't be shocked by his success, and nor will you be dismayed by his struggles. You will already know him. So, Patrick, thank you, man. I look forward to us being on again. Hopefully we'll get others on there like Brother Lacey, get him back on here, and so forth, so we can continue trying to be what our boot camp motto is, which is because of others' testimony, Christ answered my prayers. And so thank you again, man. You have a great day, great week, great month. And we'll be on here in another 2 weeks. We'll be back on here. All right?
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate you for having me. You have a blessed day, blessed week, blessed life as well.
Amen.
See you in 2 weeks.
All right. Take care.
All right.